Hey guys, welcome back, and once again we've reached the end of the season. Over the past few days we've been reviewing this year's episodes and the retention graphs to highlight your favourite moments and the most valuable insights this year has had to offer. Now, if you're new here, this is the Education Lounge podcast where we talk education in all of its forms: political, technological, and sometimes a little bit controversial.
The Education Lounge podcast.
Back in November, I wrote a blog on my personal site about how play transforms adult life. This naturally got us to think about what we do here. So to kick things off, for the first episode of the season, we asked, is play really better for learning? I've always been fascinated by animals, and I've watched a lot of these nature documentaries, like the Attenboroughs. There's one with Gordon Buchanan, and one thing that I've always seen is that the cubs, whether it's tiger cubs or bear cubs, they always seem to learn through play. They always seem to learn about hunting through imitating their mother. They learn about where their boundaries are when they're play fighting with their siblings. I'm just wondering how much is that the case for humans, because we're mammals, we're also mammals the same as they are, and I think it might be more than we think. The main thing I can really get a grasp on is this whole neural connection thing. Mm-hmm. I think we spoke about it in the last episodes as well a little bit. Not the plasticity. I said malleability last time, I think. Yeah, the plasticity of the brain sort of changes as you develop, right?
Yeah.
So when you're young, it's like a sponge, hopefully, and everything you do creates all these different connections and things. And then at the age of, I think girls are about 2 years ahead of boys in this regard, which is another reason why some of the schooling is a bit unfair, but that's a whole other topic. It kind of levels out around 21, I think, is, if I think about that correctly.
Yeah.
Which falls in line with the American drinking age, 21, so it kind of makes sense. So when they're learning and playing as they're growing up, these neural connections are happening all the time. Mm-hmm. And they become more fixed and long term the more they repeat. So if you think about say a river that's going in different streams, the stream that it goes down, the water goes down the most, has the deepest grooves. And it's a similar sort of concept to that. The other thing is you can't undo neural connections. You can just have newer neural connections made that you end up using instead, which is why things like addiction are so hard. Mm-hmm. Anyway, rambling. Back to the beginning. So when a child is, 0 to
5.
0 to 5.
Yeah, that's kind of the key ages of child development.
Yeah.
And I guess during that time, what are they doing? They're not sitting down with...
No, they're playing.
Books, reading. Well, that's me. But yeah, that's a whole... But yeah, essentially they're learning through play, because everything is a learning experience for them.
Yeah.
Any sort of sensory input.
New. So after establishing that unstructured play lays neural grooves in the brain, we looked at why experimentation beats perfection, or rather how it leads to better results quicker. We then compared structured activities to open-ended ones and discussed how intrinsic rewards and dopamine make play so powerful. I'm sure I've told you this one before, the photography experiment.
Which one was that?
So there was a group A, group B, I think 25 in each, was same number of people in each group. And their goal was to come back with the best picture after a week or whatever it was. Group A were told to go out and take one picture and make it the best picture possible. So they went out, they spent ages thinking about it and framing things and looking around for the best thing. Then they took one picture, and Group B were told not to make the best picture ever. Just take as many pictures as possible. That's it. take as many pictures as possible.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you can probably tell what's going to happen next is the group that took loads of pictures overall had better pictures than the ones that were told to go and take the best picture.
Mm.
So, yes, there's no experiments on children, but that's a group of adults, right? And that does show how much play has a
Well,
impact.
experimentation.
I would put experimentation and play in the same bracket. We've sort of touched on this topic briefly already, but there are two different types of play, right? There's your structured play and your unstructured play.
Mhm.
You could think of this as like teacher-led or not,
Yeah.
like child-led.
So we could. It might be good to just have an example of each. So if you've got unstructured play,
Yeah.
you're given a kid. Imagine you've got a young kid, and they're just playing with some blocks, and they're not aiming to do anything in particular. They're just playing with the blocks, and they're creating their own structure, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. Sort of like creating their own world.
Yeah, but then with structured play, you've got a particular goal in mind when you lay out a task, or
like the photography thing.
it's a bit like with Lego. I guess Lego's a really good example of this. You've got like a model that you're trying to create, and that's structured.
Yeah,
and then you've just got like a massive box full of bricks, and then you're making stuff, and that's unstructured.
Yeah. What are the benefits? So the benefits of structured play and unstructured play. I guess structured play, you like you said, you have a goal, right?
Structured play, I suppose, you have a goal. You've got maybe some element of competition.
This is something I was going to come on to as well, because
Competitiveness.
it comes into sports.
There's an element of problem solving, usually.
Yeah.
And you have to follow rules and boundaries.
Yeah.
But I think with unstructured play, you make those. You don't necessarily have to.
But as you get older, you do.
But yeah, I think the young 2-year-old might not. But
no, they're happy to throw some bricks and see what happens.
Yeah.
But even then, you're learning motor skills.
Mm-hmm.
You're, like you said, learning about gravity and
Yeah.
like how things interact with each other.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff from unstructured play can be utilized in other situations of your life.
Mm-hmm. The incredible thing about games and play that makes it special is intrinsic and extrinsic reward. So, for instance, if you have a parent and they say, okay, you're going to do well in your GCSEs, I'm going to get you this, right? That's an extrinsic reward. Comes from outside.
Mm-hmm.
If you can make the child enjoy a class without bribing them, if they enjoy the class naturally,
yeah, they're rewarded just by being there.
yes, they have intrinsic reward, and there's a lot of science behind. Oh, don't quote me on the science. Essentially, there is a lot of research into how intrinsic reward is extremely important for long-term success in something. So you might find that extrinsic reward works better in the short term, but in the long term, if you really, really want, so if you want to get a good GCSE, which is a long period, leading up to the exam, really it has to come from within. And to get that, having some element of fun in the class can be very important. I'm sure that's true. Like teachers that just bribed you might not have got that much out of you in the long run, but when you genuinely wanted to be there,
yeah, the teachers never bribed.
No, they didn't.
But they didn't do it either. They're the ones that didn't like the most. There was no intrinsic or extrinsic value at all.
Yeah.
And it wasn't fun. And I wasn't interested in it. So several different things.
Mm.
The ones I was interested in, I did well in, and I actually wanted to go to those sessions.
Yeah, because like if you have fun in the class, it's a link to dopamine production.
Mm-hmm.
dopamine is a motivating
Yeah.
chemical.
Chemical.
Yeah. I just go all chemical just to make it simpler. It creates motivation. So you without dopamine, you're not doing anything essentially. If you're able to stimulate that dopamine in production in the classroom through the activity of some kind, then your learners will be better off. As a result, they'll actually want to be there, and that will have long-term positive consequences for their learning. There are loads of exciting possibilities with where play can go, because literally everything becomes possible. But with video games, you're going to have the ability to maybe sort of create your own world, and that's exciting. Like, you can create your own video game, in a sense, your own gaming experience, your own reality. But there is also the danger when that's pushed to extremes, becomes super addictive.
Yep.
And also you can lose connection with people through sort of overuse of technology.
Yeah. You can lose connection by being more connected.
Yeah. Ironically.
Yeah.
So that's the only. Those are the two big dangers. But I don't know. There might be other things.
Yeah.
Like there could be the physical danger, physical harm, that sort of thing.
Well, there's also the lack of exercise and all that. It's a whole other element.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen WALL-E?
Yeah. It's almost like no one has seen WALL-E or iRobot.
Yeah.
Ever. Well, the advice I would give to the future for people is go outside and touch grass. As everyone says, touch grass.
Yeah.
All the 2 words you've got to remember, touch grass. Speaking of keeping a little play in your life as you grow up, this next segment, taken from our Christmas episode, is a perfect case study. Buddy the Elf is an adult who never lost his playfulness. That childlike wonder transforms his family, his workspace, and even an entire city. We mapped Buddy's hero's journey based on Dan Harmon's story circle and looked into the themes of the movie, like family, play, and the corporate world. Ultimately, Elf endures because it reminds us to stay playful and to remember what's really important. This was quite a fun episode.
It's magical. It's wonderful.
So what do we think of, let's break down this character. What do we think of the story arc? The hero's journey. What's the hero's journey for Buddy the Elf?
So he starts off in, it seems fairly happy in the North Pole.
Yeah.
Like he's and then he has a bit of there's little clues here and there that indicate he's not
that he's over double the height of anyone else.
Yeah. little tiny things, little indicators that
he is massive, 6'3" or something.
Incidentally, they're really nicely done. They didn't use CGI, and they used
did the forced perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they used a lot of large things for the elves, and then Will Ferrell would sit on small things purposely, and they'd also use, and they'd also
they use that for like The Hobbit, and they use that for like Lord of the Rings with the Gandalf scenes.
Yeah.
See, buddy, you're not a cotton-headed ninny muggins.
Dan Harmon's story circle, which we brought up in the Home Alone one last year. I don't remember off the top of my head. There's like 8 different steps to it.
It's very small.
Yeah, it's printed very small. Oh, okay, right. So you've got your characters in their comfort zone, but they need something. They go to an unfamiliar situation, which is so far so good.
That's New York.
They search and try and adapt to it.
He's searching. He's searching. He's definitely not adapting. I don't think that's ever a word you can use for Will Ferrell's character. Maybe comedies are slightly different.
Well, tests and challenges. He tries to bond with Walter. He struggles to understand humans. He's trying to figure it out.
Yep.
Then the 5th one on that circle thing is they find or they get what they want. Like they get temporary success. So he's found his father.
Yeah. And he's living with them.
He's
That's
found
sort
him.
of the
It's not like where he wants to be.
And he's going on dates with Zooey Deschanel.
Yeah.
A bit.
So DNA test. He basically finds it, but it's not like it's a false resolution basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then because of that, they get to the lowest point and they have to pay a heavy price. This is where they sort of separate, and Buddy's not sure whether he's elf.
Yeah,
Or
that's his
human,
lowest
or-
point.
Yeah. Then they return back to the unfamiliar situation,
Yeah.
and then they have the final transformation change. So they're back to the beginning of the.
And that's the step that I think that, again, is.
But I suppose his found
that whole arc works way better for the dad, even though it's done in too short a time frame. I think that would describe it almost perfectly. A lot of it.
Yeah, so it's essentially a Dan Harmon, the guy that did Community and
Rick and Morty.
It's essentially what every story is.
Yeah.
Every story has that kind of those steps.
Yeah. He's. I think on this one, Buddy's got 6 out of 8, maybe. Buddy, as the character, doesn't necessarily learn anything, does he? He doesn't really learn anything. He finds his father, and he falls in love. But in terms of him changing, the Buddy that you see at the end is kind of like everyone just learns from Buddy.
So the normal Dan Harmon story circle thing doesn't really complete itself.
Well,
he knows
Could
who
back?
he is though, and that's the difference, I guess.
He finds himself. He's not.
But he kind of knows who he is in like the end of Act 1, doesn't he? He like knows who his father is.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't got himself situated in that world. In the same way with Mary Poppins, I think it might be that it's not about the kids; it's about the dad learning.
It is
because
mainly,
he's the one who grows. He's the one who has to grow. He's like the satisfying plot arc. Well,
Yeah.
I find
we'll get to him.
I find his plot arc not the most satisfying.
No, but it's like the most traditional of like, I don't believe in Christmas.
No, I think there's not enough development of the father. But I mean, a lot of the rest of the film, I'm like, you can't really change it. But I'd say a little bit more development of father would have been nice.
Yeah.
Well, we can come on to breaking that down as well.
And then let's continue breaking down Buddy. So
yeah,
he goes to New York. Mm-hmm. He finds his father initially, but his father's not accepting of him, or doesn't even know that he's like, who's this crazy guy, essentially.
Well, they think
which is fair enough.
What do they call it? A Christmas gram?
Yes, which I don't know if that's as big a thing.
Oh, it's not here.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's not one of those things that translates necessarily, but you kind of get what it is.
Yeah, someone sends a thing as a joke, a person as a joke to do whatever it is.
Yeah.
He sort of just he finds himself in the toy, was it
the department
store? Yeah, and the elf area. Funnily enough, and
yeah.
Well, he gets pulled into the elf area by the elf manager. I don't know.
The elf manager.
Who sort of who like says you shouldn't be here. You know, you should be up there working. So he sort of he gets a job. Well,
because he's dressed.
Well, he's dressed. He's dressed like he's got lovely elf clothes.
And he meets Jovi,
mm-hmm.
which is nice. Like, Zoe Deschanel.
Yep.
Blonde. It works.
No, I think it does.
I
don't think it does. I think she's
it
much
works.
more of a.
And it's quite a fringeless performance by her. Usually,
is that a hair pun or is that?
Usually, she
does.
Usually, she has what do they call
bangs.
it? Bangs. Yeah. Bangs.
Like in New Girl.
Yeah, that's like the classic Zoe Deschanel look.
I don't know. They made it.
Zoe Deschanel look.
Oh,
I think they made her look cute. They like
she's cute.
and it sort of works for the character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Buddy the Elf.
Buddy the Elf.
He falls for her quite quickly. Right.
That's probably part of his growing up arc because he doesn't know what it is. Like he's not sure what he's feeling, and his little brother that's like 12 years old has to teach him what that is. That's part of him growing up into a
he does
adult human person.
Yeah, I suppose at the start, it's not like you can't imagine him feeling love because he's already feels like love for his parents.
Yeah, but like
it's
a romantic interest.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's
part of his development.
The way he treats it is the way he treats everything, though. It's a bit like, oh my God, it's so amazing. Everything is,
wonder.
Yeah, which is kind of important for the film, I think.
Yeah. So once he meets what's the name?
Jovi.
Jovi.
Yeah.
I don't. Is her name even? Because I've seen the film a few times.
Yeah.
Where is the name mentioned?
It is.
I mean,
Like, it's not like
it's not front and center.
no.
She doesn't get a lot to do. You know,
She just pops up here.
she
and
sort
there.
of pops up here and there and seems to be fine with everything. Seems to be like into him.
Yeah.
To be fair, it is a very short film, so I feel like
You can't really. You got to focus on the dad.
yeah, it's like
more.
there's a main
Yeah.
there's a main arc and it's a side quest essentially. That's what I mean. The side character development is kind of weak in that sense because
yeah, but
they don't have time.
Well, you've got to get all his ad
peripherals, aren't
libs in, don't you? You've got to get all of Will Ferrell's funniest bits in, and that's
Yeah.
probably at the expense of a lot of character development of the.
Yeah,
other.
I think the main characters are probably obviously Buddy the elf, the dad, and I think the little brother as well is quite an important one.
yeah,
Um,
because his relationship with the dad is also strengthens
yeah.
that.
But I think
well, the
that
women in the film don't seem to have a lot of.
Well, the mum has she's got essentially nothing to do. She sort of
She's
smiles.
there.
She smiles and sort of gently chides her husband a little bit,
Yeah.
and sort of is sort of his better nature of just like, oh no, we've got to. You know, she sort of allows the plot to move along.
Yeah,
She is essentially a plot device of just like, oh no, we've got to let him in the house. Because there's no way we'd believe that James Caan, you know, the dad, would let in that elf without his wife being there. So come
yeah,
on, we've got
even
to.
shorter films.
Yeah.
No,
No, no, just closing the door.
yeah, I don't think. But I'd say like in general, even though the side characters don't get development, the only one that I'd say probably deserved a bit more was the dad. I think of everyone else,
Because he's the second most important character.
like
he has
as
the
in
most traditional
here's the
story arc.
here's the instrumental change, and it'd be interesting to see like why is he like this and that kind of thing. But I guess the whole implication is that it's the corporate culture and that sort of thing.
Of children's literature.
Yeah, I love that.
I've got news for you. Even if those 2 pages were in there, the book still would have sucked. Have you seen the numbers for this quarter?
They'll be here today.
They're in. That friggin' puppy and pigeon are tanking hard hobs. My people estimate we're gonna post a -8 for this quarter. A -8! That does not happen!
I guess the son makes the father realise at the board meeting.
Yeah.
That-
it's sort of like a you or me, like them or me choice.
Yeah,
You can
choice
go with your
between
family.
the family and your job essentially.
Yeah.
In this case, and he chooses his family. He makes the right choice, as it were.
From Buddy's very outgoing and lively personality, we again turn inward. This is another episode that came from one of my blogs. The episode was on perfectionism and whether it can hinder or even destroy progress. We unpack how perfect quietly becomes the enemy of done, how students hesitate on things like first drafts, how parents over-engineer schedules, and even how schools sometimes prioritize polish over iteration. This is closely related to the play episode because perfectionism can inhibit play, and play is where experimentation and genuine learning actually happen. To actually explain what perfectionism is before we get into other topics like how it relates to education, personality types, how to tell if you're a perfectionist, how to get past all of that sort of stuff. Maybe we should sort of define what it is.
Yeah. So I did some research on this, and it seems that this idea of perfectionism has undergone a bit of transformation in the academic literature. So it's sort of changed from being probably considered a bad thing, like completely bad, to being more nuanced in how it's described. So
What? Yeah, give me.
initially you could say perfectionism just involves setting abnormally high standards for yourself and others, and then judging your own self-worth by those standards,
Right.
and being overly critical of your own behavior.
Okay.
And that's basically what we've always generally thought perfectionism is, because I think in most cases we regard it as not a good thing, so it's negative. But
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Depends what it is.
depends what it is.
I mean, I everything you've listed there, I can relate to. I'm overly critical of myself.
And others.
And others, I'm sorry. But it's like I just want things to be done the right way, which there isn't. I know, I get that, but the right way to me is not always the right way to you or whoever else I'm talking to or working with.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, you were saying it transformed into
It's
something more
sort of
nuanced.
So it's basically transformed into there's more than one type of perfectionism, essentially. So
Right.
you can have perfectionism that is debilitating. So it's really bad. So negative form of perfectionism,
Right.
or maladaptive form. And then you've got a more adaptive form of perfectionism, which is actually
you
just setting high standards isn't necessarily a bad thing to do.
Can you explain the adaptive and maladaptive?
So basically, there's two types that we think of. So maladaptive perfectionism is fear of mistakes, excessive concern. Now, notice the word excessive about others' judgments, and is associated with a higher risk for depression, anxiety, and eating disorders.
Okay.
So generally pretty bad. Like, as in, we're not going to say that is generally going to be a bad thing. And then adaptive is setting high personal standards without harsh self-criticism, and it often leads to better emotional well-being and greater life satisfaction. So I think it's setting higher standards versus debilitating perfectionism.
Okay. So then I would say I'm probably on the adaptive side.
Yeah. I mean, like, at times, I think it's natural for people.
It's like a spectrum where you can fluctuate between.
There's probably times where, like, I think I can be overly perfectionist, but even me, and I wouldn't consider myself a perfectionist.
No, I wouldn't. I would say you're more like free flowing with that sort of stuff.
But I get it, as in I think sometimes I've got an idea of how things should be.
Yeah.
And if something doesn't conform to that ideal, I won't even attempt it in the first place, because I don't believe it's
worth doing unless it's
it's perfect.
Something that I'm really into is like psychology and Myers-Briggs tests and the big 5 personality traits and enneagrams and like all the different personality things. We spoke a little bit the other day, yesterday maybe, about how perfectionism relates to the big 5 specifically, which again is something that Jordan Peterson talks about a lot. It's the big 5.
Yeah.
So it's
OCEAN. So you remember using the acronym OCEAN, don't you? So openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and then neuroticism.
Yeah.
And it's really, really funny because I when I was researching this idea of perfectionism, I thought it'd be good to combine those two things together and say, okay, what makes you likely to be a perfectionist?
Yeah.
And it kind of came up exactly how you'd expect it to be.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try and let's see if I can guess this.
Yeah.
So the first one was openness, right?
Openness to experience.
I think openness won't make much difference to perfectionism.
Is it high or low?
Probably low.
Yeah.
The more open you are, the more free you are. So it's
a perfectionist has a limiting beliefs.
This is like Price is Right, like higher or lower. So the next one was conscientiousness.
Yeah, conscientiousness.
I think you'd have to be for you to want something to be like perfect. You're probably going to be quite conscientious.
Yeah. High conscientiousness.
High conscientiousness. Probably lower in extroversion.
Yeah,
because you're less open again. And then agreeableness. Agreeableness, I think, will go either way, because in order to get something perfect, especially if you're working as part of a team, you're gonna have to be somewhat disagreeable, because people aren't going to be always doing things the way you want them to be doing them. So I think, but then it could be the other way as well. It could go either way.
Yeah, there doesn't seem, as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, but there doesn't seem to be much of a relationship between agreeableness and perfectionism.
Yeah. I think you can be very agreeable.
Conscientiousness, very, very strong relationship.
Yeah, well, and the last one, neuroticism.
Yeah, and very, very, very strong
Yeah.
relationship again.
And I think I am quite neurotic.
Yeah.
And I think I'm high in openness. I'm high in conscientiousness.
It depends.
Extroversion, it kind of fluctuates depending on what situation I'm in and who I'm with.
I don't think you're as I think the conscientiousness is very this and that way with you. Like as
in what way?
As in some areas you're very conscientious, in others you're not.
Okay, so it fluctuates. Depends on the situation.
Yeah, but there's some people who are like,
with everything,
I'm gonna soldier from 5 a.m. till 12 a.m. Well, like all day.
No.
Like you know, like there are people who are literally like that. I don't think you're like that. I think it depends what it is.
I like my sleep too much to be like that. So.
Yeah. But there does seem to be suggestion, at least, that there is a correlation between age and decreasing levels of perfectionism.
I think as you get older, you realise that
not everything.
Well, the world is not perfect.
Yeah.
The world will never be perfect. And your perception or your idea of perfect is different to somebody else's idea of perfect. So it will never be.
But
you think about this comes back to was it a blog before maybe? Did I speak about Morgan Housel's Same as Ever book? Was that last podcast one before blog? I wrote it, spoke about it somewhere. Anyway, the tree that grows the tallest and the straightest to get the most sunlight is like trying to be perfect, but then it sort of bends and collapses under its own weight.
Yeah.
So it's a natural thing. In nature, nothing is perfect, because if something is perfect, it negates another aspect of the characteristics of that animal or plant or whatever. So nothing in nature is perfect. Therefore, nothing that we do as part of nature will ever be perfect.
Yeah. And perfection's obviously this subjective thing. So perfectionists have an objective view of that something should be a certain way. It has to be that way. Whereas in reality, it doesn't play out that way. And I think that's also the other thing is children live in a sort of curated world. So everything's like pretty and lovely, and you're the, I don't know, if you're a girl, you're the magical princess or whatever. And then if you're the boy, you're the sort of hero archetype with the sword that saves the princess and that sort of thing. It's like you play into these childhood archetypes. Your dad is perfect for you. Your mum is perfect for you as well. Like your parents are like, everything seems perfect in a sense. And then you're shielded from a lot of the pain in the world, right?
Yeah, you're in a little bubble.
Yeah. Which, you know, is fair enough. As in, I think it's nice. It's the magic of childhood. But it also can lead to a bit of delusion as you get older. So obviously in the teenage years, you might be confronted by more challenges. You're approaching adulthood, you realize that the world isn't completely rosy. And that's probably why the transition between childhood and adulthood is so difficult.
Partly why, yeah.
And then I think now social media is a big sort of bit more of a thing that we didn't have to deal with so much. Obviously, we still had to deal with the perception of others, that kind of thing. Growing up, family pressures, that sort of thing. But I think this current generation has maybe it's slightly worse because they have such a curated life and it's online and...
Well, yeah, not even that. Everything that they see is curated. It's a highlight reel of somebody's life. You don't see the imperfect moments. The 49 photos that were taken before this 50th one got uploaded. So what do we keep? What story do we tell ourselves? Well, the philosophies of Porsche's incremental changes versus Ferrari's range of designs And similarly, in the world of tech, iPhone's minor tweaks year on year versus Android's try a lot of ideas approach explain the concept perfectly and which philosophies to use when. In a world where perfectionism fades with time, your philosophy matters more. Have you heard of Porsche versus Ferrari?
I mean,
The different, well, I mean, yeah, obviously you heard of the cars,
yeah.
but I mean the different like methodologies of how they work.
I think
So-
Porsche would aim for perfection.
how what's the
I don't know. You just hear it like Porsche.
so
engineering.
Porsche are incremental adjustments towards perfection, and Ferrari is just the opposite. Random car, crazy car, random car, crazy car. And it was basically equated to the iPhone versus Samsung, iPhone versus Android thing. iPhone is Porsche. They make tiny changes every year to the point where you're like, oh, these phones look the same as last year, like, which they do. But they change a couple of bits here and there and they incrementally make it better. It does mean you don't need to upgrade every year or whatever, but they have the Porsche philosophy.
Yeah, and then Samsung has like its flip phone.
Samsung is the Ferrari philosophy.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, flip phone, fold phone, phone with a stylus thing, phone without a thing. Camera arrangement looks completely different to last year.
Yeah.
That's Ferrari, and iPhone is Porsche. That's the mentality.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the incremental upgrades to make things that you've started on better and better and better, rather than making seemingly random things and hoping they hit.
But I think, like, interestingly enough, you need both because you need
the Ferrari thing to start with.
yeah, exactly.
And then once you start
refine
it,
it.
you refine it. Yeah.
Yeah. Although there are some people who they do new thing.
Yeah.
They can't focus on one thing.
Yeah. No, I it's annoying. I prefer the design of Ferraris, but the philosophy of Porsche. We spoke about Kaizen. I think that might have been on our personal channel, but Kaizen, do you remember the Kaizen philosophy? It's that incremental, tiny steps towards better. So to wrap up, I think the main takeaway is to do your personality test, figure out if you're that sort of a person, use the tools that we've spoken about, and practice self-compassion. I think practicing self-compassion and not being as hard on yourself, because people that are perfectionists and quite neurotic and all this sort of stuff, they tend to be pretty hard on themselves. So practice some level of self-compassion. I would say to end on one of my favorite quotes about this topic, and it is, art is never finished, it is only abandoned. We debunked the popular misconception that every person has a single learning style. People don't have specific learning styles that can be applied to everything. There are just some methods that are better suited to certain tasks than others. This is my takeaway from this. I know we're quite early on in the conversation, but I feel like I already know what my conclusion is.
What?
My conclusion is that the learning style isn't for each individual person, but it's for the thing that you're learning.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the conclusion from the data.
Is it? I haven't actually looked at it.
So no, it is
well, there you go. End of podcast.
But it's kind of a terrible thing that so many people believe it, because people think, okay, you think it doesn't matter, but like in terms of an education system, you've got loads of teachers and loads of students and loads of parents who believe in learning styles and that something needs to suit a preferred learning style. You're wasting time. You're making it more effort to actually learn stuff when you could be going, okay, well, this is the optimal route to learning
this specific thing.
And this is the proven route for learning this specific thing. Why aren't we doing it? There's actually a sort of curve which describes how we forget things. Basically, it describes.
Spaced repetition.
So this is useful in this method. So spaced repetition. You know, like flashcards.
Yeah.
So have you heard of Pimsleur language?
No.
Pimsleur language course. So there are these series of courses, and there was this guy called Paul Pimsleur, right. And he throughout his course, he basically doesn't get you to learn that much in the period of time that you learn in the course, but essentially he spaces out a lot of the inputs and the words, and then the idea is that over time you actually retain quite a lot of what you learn, and that's certainly why it's with Pimsleur. Again, it's not a very dense course, but you do find that you learn some of the things quite well, like because they appear in later lessons, like, oh, use a word here and then use a word a bit later here. Well, it turns out that there's a sort of specific, so there's the first day where you encounter something, then you wait a day and then you revise that thing, then you can wait 3 days or 2 days after the second time that you review it.
Yeah.
We talked a bit about focus and how important that is. And one of the, although it's not really a method, it's important, I guess it's almost like it's a technique, isn't it? The Pomodoro technique.
Yeah, so this is
you chunk
set amount of time, short break, set amount of time, short break.
You're chunking your learning into manageable chunks.
Yeah.
So 30 minutes.
Well, there's a
Pomodoros.
Yeah, I don't know the exact formula, but there's a formula for how long someone can concentrate for based on their age.
Okay.
You take the age and you multiply, subtract something, and it's like, okay, well,
I'm always really skeptical about that, but because it varies a lot.
Yeah, so it'd be like a 10-year-old can do 18 minutes, a 20-year-old can do 45 or whatever it is. I can't remember the formula. I've heard about it, but so yeah, the Pomodoro thing is where you have a set amount of time, then a short break, a set amount of time, and a short break. So it kind of matches up with how your brain naturally works.
I did that on Sunday. So I was studying Romanian, and I spent like 30 minutes doing one thing. So I just practiced the technique. I did that, and then being me, I went to go and eat something.
Of course you did.
And had a little walk, and then came back, and then I did that, and then I did it again. I did 2.5 hours of study. But it was quality study because I knew exactly what I was going to do in that time.
Yeah, you had to plan it out.
Whereas I think a lot of students, they struggle with that extended focus, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I do as well, unless I'm really into a task.
But having a strategy of sorts helps. So you know how you're going to use that time at least. That's also something that people struggle with.
Like time blocking.
Yeah, working out exactly how they're...
Oh yeah, I mean, I struggle with that too, but I get distracted.
Yeah.
I distract myself. Other things distract me. You might get an email or a call or whatever. So yeah, time blocking with Pomodoro.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, pretty useful. Now, I said at the start of this wrap up that we do sometimes get controversial. So next up, we're tackling a big one. The gender gap in schools. Why are boys falling behind? Either down to brain development speeds or the way that we teach. There are many factors at play here, from evolution and nature versus nurture to the literacy gap and generally natural instincts of boys and girls. So should boys start school later? What are the roles of these teachers and role models, and where do focus study habits fall into all this? Well, let's take a look. It's not really talked about openly. I think people do talk about it, but it's not really like a open discussion. So I think that's what we're doing today.
It's known very well in academic circles. So
But in terms of like parents and teachers and day to day,
I think teachers are probably aware of it. Parents maybe not as much so.
do you think there's some sort of what's the word? Purposely not paying attention to it, ignoring that it exists.
We have a tendency to do that. So ignoring, I think this is just a societal thing, is in ignoring obvious problems and just allowing it to sort of fester
Well, I
until
think because there's not really a solution.
there are solutions, but
Practical solutions.
I think there are practical solutions. They're just not. Maybe it's not what you've got to make a sort of value judgment about how important it is, and I think it's sort of swept under the carpet compared to other things. Because I mean, there are more important things to maybe worry about, but the direction of boys in education and society is actually very critical in the long term. But it's very, on the short term side, you don't see bigger impacts, but you will see it in the future. And I think that's why it's not really talked about that openly.
Okay.
Or that often. Simply the priority isn't on that now. That's
Do you think it should be?
Yeah. I think any child, whether they're boys or girls, we should always be aiming for excellence in education. So we should always be asking ourselves, why is this person not succeeding? Why is this person? What could we do to improve this person's education? We should, no matter who that person is, attempt to, within reason, get them better levels of attainment.
Is that possible though? Because in terms of like developmental speeds, is that possible?
We can certainly, it's such a massive lead that girls have in, especially literacy, that there's more at play than just biological differences. There's no intelligence difference between boys and girls, really.
I think there is. I think there is like a brain development speed.
Yeah, but it's not related to intelligence. It's related to probably emotional processing and that sort of thing.
I don't know. I think it could be partly intelligence as well. Because if your brain is developing slower than somebody else's, then there will be an intelligence gap there.
That might be true for certain types of assessment or certain types of question that boys sometimes struggle with more than girls. But if you think about it throughout history, we've had amazing male writers.
Yeah.
They had no deficit in terms of their literacy.
No, but
skills.
how old were they when they wrote those? Because the gap does close up in early 20s. By 25, it's sort of set.
Yeah.
But growing up, there is a difference. So we have had amazing male writers and amazing female writers, but that the things that they've written that were that amazing were once that gap had been closed in early adulthood.
But I've also seen boys who are 10 years old write amazing piece of work.
Yeah, there's a problem here though, because what's the exception and what's the rule? Because you can't take the exception and make it the rule.
Well,
I would say they're exceptions. They're exceptionally good. It's an exception to the rule of what generally happens.
do you think there's a perception that boys are just worse at English, and that permeates across, like in the same way that people used to have a perception of girls in maths, that permeates throughout the system? Because I've heard so many parents comment on, he's just not very good at English and that sort of thing, and it's always with boys. And
I think
I've heard the opposite with girls. I've heard, she's just not very good at maths. I think it might not seem that relevant, but I think there's a causal connection between them, because I've just seen it so many times. Girls who struggle with maths often presented a sort of view. Sometimes stems from a parent not being particularly strong at maths. So a parent going, okay, I'm not very good at maths, and she seems to take after me. And I think that's kind of a harmful perception.
Is it like a self-fulfilling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
If
those
you get
things
told
are,
something over and over again, you believe it.
those things are so powerful, and I think we underestimate
Yeah, we do. The impacts.
if you say someone they're useless at something, eventually
I've
it
seen
will
in,
happen.
in class, I don't know if it's like just a colloquial sort of, it's what the kids always say. When they get something wrong, they're like, oh, I'm so dumb, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I'm so stupid. And I keep saying like, yeah, I know it's like a phrase,
Yeah.
but stop telling yourself that.
Yeah.
Like, it happens all the time.
We
Like,
have
you start to believe
yeah.
it, so you don't want to internalize those
No.
thoughts. Because I have my main thoughts on this. I know we've spoken about it before, but my main thoughts are to go back to neurological brain development, biologically speaking, that sort of thing. So maybe we can go into that first. Because
So-
I'll tell you what I think. Right, evolution in evolutionary terms, the men were the hunters, and the females were the ones that were looking after the cave and the kids and building communities. So it's not really surprising that mathematically and hand-eye coordination and all that sort of spatial awareness is stronger in males, and it's no surprise that language and communities and all that sort of stuff is stronger in females.
Yeah, as a generalization.
Obviously it's a generalization. Don't get me cancelled or anything. It's a generalization, but that's how it was thousands of years ago. And despite what a lot of people think, we don't evolve that quickly. That those networks are still there. So I don't think it's surprising that, and obviously we said this before, people enjoy, they're better at things that they enjoy.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, boys prefer physics and maths and DT.
They say
and
it's
that sort of stuff.
things, like boys are obsessed with things, and then
Yeah, and
girls are more obsessed with people.
Which goes back to what I was saying about living in caves and stuff, which is why you have loads of women nurses and that sort of stuff, and more male pilots and engineers and mechanics.
Yeah.
Right. So it is somewhat a biological thing, I believe. It's not to say that you can't have, a female pilot or a male nurse or whatever.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, people go into what they're interested in, and that's generally how it works. So it's not surprising that girls are stronger in English and they prefer biology compared to like maths and physics.
Yeah. No.
Do you agree with that, or do you?
I think societal influences are so powerful that you can, to some extent, almost social engineer a lot of these things.
Yeah,
Because
but in terms of
the girls have basically caught up with the boys in terms of STEM.
I think we'll come on to that next. But the thing I'm talking about is the biological evolutionary point. Do you agree with that specific point?
Partially. I think we're more mutable than, as in we become what we're supposed to.
But again, that's nurture. That's not nature.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the nature.
But I think nurture's so critical that can sort of, I wouldn't say it surpasses nature's importance, but it can seriously affect it.
I think nature is the sort of foundation point. And there might be like preferences based on biology, but then the nurture will take over from that point.
Yeah.
It was usually both ends of the spectrum in terms of, from what I remember at school, the kids who are actually really clever and found the stuff really easy, thinking of people like sleeping in the classroom and making jokes and getting kicked out. And also true on the other end, people that weren't that bright, that found what they were currently doing too difficult, and then they switched off and messed around. And that, it's the people in the middle that are kind of okay.
They had this thing about intelligence and how it's distributed differently, boys and girls. Like, so it roughly ends up fairly similar when you average it out, but there's like
Well, the curves are slightly off or something.
So
Yeah.
so there's more really, really stupid boys
Yeah.
and more really, really intelligent boys. And then whereas girls, it's more of an sort of
More evenly leveled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
flat distribution.
Yeah.
Um,
Which makes sense.
yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it makes sense, but it just sort of, it might explain quite a lot why most of the prison population is boys.
Yeah.
There's also, I think, more, there's certain, so ADHD is more common in boys.
I think so.
And it also is shows up in girls differently. It presents differently in
Yeah.
a girl.
It's not as
Hyperactive.
or obvious.
Not as obvious because of, I think of the hyperactive, because it's can be quite tell for someone to tell they've got ADD instead as opposed to ADHD.
Yeah. We were talking about this yesterday, Sunday,
Yeah,
when we met up with the guys.
we had a friend who was like,
I think I'm the same. After that conversation, I was like, I definitely not ADHD. I don't have the hyperactivity.
No.
I'd rather sleep. But I think my attention is not great.
But I sort of think,
Unless I'm like properly locked into something.
because he was sort of going, okay, I kind of he was angry that maybe people didn't spot that sooner, and I was sort of thinking it's really quite hard to.
It's not even that. I think
gauge.
people just look at it as less, this is ADHD, and more, this is what all boys are like.
Yeah, this is a bad thing. I think this is like one of the year sixes. I think it was a year ago, maybe 2 years. 2 years ago, I think he was talking with. I think you know the one. He was talking with the other year sixes, the other boys in the group.
Yeah, I know the group.
Yeah. And he said, teachers don't like boys. I was like, that's his perception of teachers. And
Yeah.
I was like, there's no, and the boys just sort of agreed.
Well, we did a video on our personal channel like last week or week before, and we spoke about the Matthew effect.
Yeah.
I think it's only occurred to me just now. I think the Matthew effect is having an effect in the classroom.
So
The people that are working and that are further ahead get given more attention.
Yeah.
Those that have more, thus more will be given to,
yes. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
those who have less, more will be taken from. Matthew effect.
I mean, we know from experience, we've taught 11 plus loads of times, it's very high pressured. You have an exam to sit at the end of the year, requires a lot of concentration and focus. We know that dragging a group of boys
Through the process. Yeah.
as opposed to girls is very different. Right?
Yeah, it is.
And it's not from an intelligence perspective. It's the focusing and
Well, there's just like
concentrating
other things that they would find more interesting. Like we said, girls are more interested in people and like concepts and stuff, and boys are more interested in things. Even now, I would rather be fiddling with a thing like a laptop or a building, whatever it is, than I would be sitting and looking at vocabulary or whatever. Even now, I would still prefer that.
I think there is this expectation with boys though that they won't read as well as girls, and they'll have more trouble acquiring language, and it becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy. I also think, following on from what that boy said at primary school, which you can see that even at primary school there's a big gap. a huge gap between boys' literacy skills and girls. I think it's also partially because teachers have quite a low expectation for boys as opposed to girls. And they also have, because there's so many female teachers, as like the ratio, you have a 3-to-1 ratio.
But then we said, didn't we, that the teachers, the classes that have male teachers,
Oh yeah, that's
the kids, they behave better and they learn more.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bit of a weird thing. Like, we do need more male teachers in education simply because they produce results that are different from girls. But I think a boy having a male I certainly knew
Role models, yeah.
when I had a male teacher, it was different. Like it was, like I did feel that the boys were more on track at that. Like I noticed that there was a difference.
Well, yeah, because they've got someone to look up to, and it also goes back to like biologically and all that sort of stuff we spoke about earlier. It's less nurturing and more like lessons. Like you learn what to do and what not to do from your father, really, and then generally speaking, again, and then your mother's the nurturer. You know, like your dad will be really angry when he gets home and all that sort of stuff. You learn your lessons from that side mainly, and your nurturing comes from the other side. So it again is no surprise that that's how it plays out. They behave better because they're more fearful, I guess, of being scorned by a male teacher. How do you feel about failure? Well, we think failure is something that we need to learn to embrace. But why? Well, it helps us grow, improve, and build resilience. When we look at anything in life, we should embrace both the ups and the downs along the way. They get really upset if they get something wrong, or the rubble they're working out. Because I guess they're encouraged to succeed, which obviously should be encouraged to succeed, but you shouldn't be punished for, not punished, but like demotivated by the failure. Because like when we were at school, you would get a red X, right, next to something that's wrong. A lot of schools don't do that now.
Yeah.
Even the children, like because I'm used to that, so I'd put an X if something's wrong, or I'd circle the question number. They get upset about it. Like, no, normally we put a dot next to the one that's wrong. It's like, I don't really see if that's a positive thing or...
I think, although it has... I can see why teachers and educationalists in general would see the red X as problematic. I don't think it is. I think it's actually about building children up and students to accept that they have failed in something and that they have made a mistake, but then
to learn,
helping them to learn from that mistake. So otherwise we just end up in the same place. We're treading water, as it were.
Yeah.
Not moving forward.
I don't know. Do you think it should be encouraged? Do you think failure should be encouraged? Because I have another anecdote that I could share.
I've got one, because I wouldn't say I failed tests really, but I had one bad experience, and from that failure, it allowed me to move forward and do better.
Okay, go on. So what was that then?
So, you know how it was like in the old days, we used to get all our test results read out in front of us in school.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So I remember there was like particularly traumatic geography lesson when
your favourite.
all our tests, that was my worst subject. I was used to doing relatively well in subjects, so scoring solidly, and that result I got the lowest mark in the class.
Right.
And it really, I don't know, it hurt. But from that failure, the next time I got, as in I went from 49%, which doesn't sound, it's not that terrible, I suppose, in the grand scheme of things. But to me,
it's the standard you held yourself
yeah,
to at the time.
it felt awful. Like I felt, oh, this is so embarrassing. But I just remember that from that, I decided, I made the decision, I will achieve a respectable result in geography. And then I worked harder at it, and then I got 70% the next test, which was a big improvement.
Yeah.
So I'd say if you're not used to failure, it can be quite damaging, but it's more about your response to that failure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so the anecdotes and stuff I have were more not personal ones, but yeah. So what did you learn? Because you can get used to failure.
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn from the failure?
Well,
Just to get used to it, or did you learn?
I learned that I needed to revise more for geography tests. If I wanted to, I shouldn't accept that I'm bad at something. That's what I learned.
Yeah.
It's the same with
Well, you proved to yourself that you could improve.
yeah.
You didn't. It's the Carol Dweck fixed mindset versus growth mindset, and you went down the growth mindset. So,
Yes.
yeah.
With a similar thing happened with computing, so IT. I remember I got a report, and it was just the most insulting report ever. It's like, oh, he's got like no hand-eye coordination. No, it was actually insulting. He needs to practice with graphics programs so he gets used to using a keyboard and a screen at the same time, and that kind of, like, as in,
Imagine someone writing that now.
yeah, no, yeah. But I got better. Like, I went from sort of an attainment level of a C to a B.
Yeah.
So basically that report kind of made me reflect. And I was only year 7, so I was like 11 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the biggest improvements I've ever had have come as a result of failing dismally at something.
Yeah. Okay, so we just spoke about the red X's and all the negative connotations, but what if you actually aimed for them? What if you aimed to get no's? Sounds strange, right? But hear me out. Sometimes it can be the best approach. There was a study done where they told, I don't know the number, 500,000 people, whatever, to go out and get as many no's as possible.
Yeah. I don't know, wasn't that just something that someone did? Or it was a study?
Well, it was an experiment. Someone told a group of people. I don't remember the exact,
Yeah.
we can look it up. But then anyway, there was one group that were told to go out and get as many no's as possible. And one group that were told to go and get as many yeses as possible. And no surprise, the people that got the most no's were the ones that got the most yeses. Then the people that went out looking for the yeses got less.
Yeah, I'm sort of surprised though that people wouldn't just aim to get no's.
Well, I think the thing with that is that they will they'll hit more people.
Yeah.
It's like a numbers game thing. You got to fail a certain number of times. Back to the James Dyson thing at the beginning. You got to fail a certain number of times before you can
I suppose also
succeed.
Framing it in that way meant that people had less pressure.
They weren't scared of,
of receiving
of attempting. Yeah,
it's a bit like dating.
Yeah,
So
same principle.
So
Yeah.
if you're unafraid of getting no's, then you're more likely to
Get yeses.
get yeses.
Yeah, it's similar concept. Sales, isn't it?
Yeah.
Selling yourself, I guess.
And I do agree with the general maxim that in life, the more willing you are to receive rejection, or the better that you handle rejection,
Yeah.
the more success you'll achieve in no matter what you define as success.
It's true, and I've always been someone that's not handled rejection very well.
Yeah.
Just in any form of life,
Mhm.
whether it's like, I don't know, business, family, friends, dating, whatever. I've not been good at that. And I think you're probably more like water for ducks back sort of thing.
Yeah, I think
Obviously,
there's been
it's still there.
there's
but like,
been some hard ones, but not. I always think you've got to look at the bright side
yeah,
of any rejection or failure, and also what can you learn from it, and that tends to be the bright side.
yeah.
There'll always
Lessons,
be
isn't it?
there'll always be a bright side.
Yeah, lessons, not losses.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that with year two child,
Yeah,
where the mum's like having a go,
yeah,
and the kid likes art and all that sort of stuff, and the mum wants it to be a lawyer. She's 7,
yeah.
and the dad's like saying, I the advice I gave was get her to do the things that she enjoys. If she really enjoys art or drawing or whatever else, like, don't dwindle that flame. Like,
Mhm.
ignite it more. You still need maths and English and whatever up to GCSE, but if someone shows that level of talent, I don't know what the artwork's like, but if she shows that level of talent and that level of enjoyment, I don't think she's going to like being a lawyer.
I don't think she needs to show that much talent at that age, because
But if it's nurtured properly,
yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing, and this doesn't. We're not saying that you shouldn't have standards for your child in
No.
terms of it, but when
but the
you're,
process is the important part, not the
yeah,
outcome.
fixate on
The
Yeah.
journey, not the destination. Yeah.
you might, but then we've talked about the importance of setting goals, and sometimes if you set your
Right,
goals
so-
to be
You should obviously set a goal to know what you're aiming for, but you don't want to focus on that alone. You want to focus on the journey, right? Because the more things you get wrong, I was talking about this on the trip actually, but it was in terms of personal development. If you look at S&P 500 stock, right, ETF for the last 20, 30 years, you see the start point and the end point, right? But if you zoom in on the journey, it's like this. It goes up and it plummets, and there's a point there and it goes back up again, and it does that.
yeah.
But if you take the average, it's that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have to be okay. You have to take the highs with the lows. You have to take that journey in order to get to that end point. Now, with all of the VAT changes in private schools coming into play, we had to once again visit this topic this year, just because there's so much that's changing. So private schools, they are pretty expensive. So why would anyone ever pay for it? Let's look at the reasons why parents might choose to send their children to a private school, and whether paying for education actually makes us value it more.
It gives your child maybe the chance to be independent of, if they do better in the long run, if they have that network of people around them in the long run. Remember, network is your net worth.
This is something I was going to come on to today,
Yeah.
actually.
I think that's the main reason to go down the...
Yeah, this is something I was definitely going to come on to. So I think we kind of get your answer from that.
Yeah. It depends. It depends on your interpretation of whether you can get a better return from putting that money into some securities or assets, or whether investing in your child's education is the best route to a return. And in some cases it will be, because if your child shows amazing potential in a certain regard and they're that sort of individual that can get the most out of it, then it probably will be a better investment, because investing in yourself and your skills and your abilities and your network and that kind of thing, that can pay big over a long time. So that's my view. It depends, essentially.
Yeah, I would say I'm similar. It does depend. I think, I mean, to cut a long story short, if you have the money and it's not going to make that much of a dent to you, because that is the case for some people, then go for it.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, those types of people probably understand finances and stock markets and property.
Yeah.
Because that's generally how most people get to.
Yeah. Or they've got a very, very high paying job, or they're.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. There are people.
No, but I'm
who
saying
are-
generally speaking.
Yeah.
Majority.
There's a lot of people in the private school world where, I don't know, the parents own a big business or something like that, and thus they're able to afford it, and they understand the importance of connections and networks.
Yeah, so this is what I was going to talk about, is the whole network thing. I was curious. I went to this property seminar thing
Mm-hmm.
a few months ago, and the guy that was talking was saying how he puts his kids into private school. He's obviously, like, he's got tens of millions or whatever in property, but he says he doesn't do it for the education. He does it for the level of people he has access to.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's a property guy, so he's going to want investors and whatever else.
Yeah.
So when they go to like a kid's birthday, he's talking to people that are talking about stocks and finances and property and
Yes.
all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas it won't always be the case that sort of thing would happen in other schools.
No. Yeah. I honestly think that's their unique advantage. There is obviously, you've got there's a subset of the population who put their children through private school because of the smaller class sizes.
It's not that much smaller, is it?
It can be a little bit, like as in every little helps, especially those really small ones. But I don't think it's necessarily the right reason to send your child to a private school. I think the main reason is always connections, who you know, or who they'll get to know, who they will surround themselves with. And
It's a mindset thing, isn't it, a lot of the time?
yeah, and the fact is that you'll pay more for a more expensive network, for a better network. So if you were a multi-millionaire, you would send your child to Eton or Harrow or somewhere like that. It's just how it would be, because it just makes sense. If you send them to Eton or Harrow or somewhere like that, imagine who they're mixing with. Like, you might not maybe like the person that comes out of the other side or whatever. Maybe you will. But they will be in, you know, the people in those networks will be powerful someday and will be able to help you. And that's why people pay 60,000 a year to send their children to those sort of let's say super independents, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. What about the schooling, though? Because we've had Ian Folks on from Forest, and when we spoke about VAT last time, link somewhere. He was saying that the teachers, from his perspective, weren't always that good.
Yeah. I think that's probably. I don't think it's about the schooling. I think it's more about the people, because
No, but like in a private school, they can hire who they want.
Yeah.
Whereas in a public school, they would be able to hire. They'd have to hire qualified teachers and go through procedures and systems and things.
yeah, I think they've got their own like perspectives on. So every school will have their own. So private schools will have their own agenda for hiring, and I think they'll be looking for a certain style of certain kind of person.
Yeah, I think even the hiring is like a lot of it is who you know.
Probably,
in
yeah.
that situation.
Yeah. No, yeah. There's a lot of people who
Like
were
our English
previously-
teacher. Our English teacher went to the school and then got hired by the school
Yeah, no. There's a lot of that in private
and
school.
got married at the school. Like, you know, there's a, which not, you know, wouldn't be the case really for the other schools.
Yeah. So there is but I think across the board, there's probably not that great of a difference between a teacher in a state school, and even educationally, there are some state schools that are so good, and especially colleges that are so, like sixth form colleges, that are really, really high level and very hard to get into. And then we've talked about grammar schools. Obviously, grammar schools give you that. Obviously, you'll be with people who are, your child will be with people who are very academically strong, because that's how they've got some form of selection. The higher the selection criteria in a school, the more renown it will have. So
It's the scarcity creates value situation,
Yeah.
essentially. Quick one. Would you pay £2,500 for a garage to fix your car if they refuse to show you what they'd actually done? No? So why do our tax bills work that way? Should we not show people what their money actually gets used for and how much of it goes to things like schools or the NHS and bin collections? I mean, a simple breakdown could boost so much trust. Remember, people don't value free. There's the term, people don't value free. Right?
Yeah.
So if you were to book a consultation with someone, I don't know, a design agency or whatever it is, if you were to book that for free, compared to if you were to pay £10 to reserve your spot, what do you think the attendance is?
yeah, you're more likely to show up to the one that you've paid for.
You put money on it, yeah.
Yeah.
People don't value free. So, yes, there's free schools. Yes, there's NHS, which actually, even though it's free, is probably very, very valued.
Yeah.
But I don't think it should stop people from like wanting to, you know, charge for private schools or go to private schools. People have access to the NHS and they still go private.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
It shouldn't stop. It shouldn't stop people from doing those things. Or, and this is probably very controversial, but you could charge a nominal amount for your state schools.
Well, it's already built into the tax system. It's just that people
don't see it. That's the difference. People don't see it. If you were to reduce the tax, I don't know, like say just for easy figures, £100 a month, reduce everyone's tax bill by £100 a month, and everyone pays £100. It's labelled like school funding or whatever it is. It would be valued more. Even if it's the same amount going to school, the perception is different. And that's the difference.
Yeah. Ibrahim brought up this very point when we were just talking about like people not seeing the value of the NHS because he's obviously a doctor.
Yeah.
And
you can see him up there somewhere.
Yeah. He was like, it wouldn't necessarily even take charging people. It's actually just making people aware of what things cost.
Yep.
Like if you go to a doctor's office, it should say like right there in front of people, this consultation costs this much. So people actually know.
They've started to do that on the NHS text message thing, where you book a doctor's appointment. It's like, make sure you turn up because this costs the NHS £160 or whatever it is. And it says the figure.
Yeah.
But imagine going anywhere else. Imagine going to, I don't know, a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, it's £249. And there's no breakdown of any of the services. Or you go get your car repaired.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a breakdown of this part was installed, the labour was this much. Nope, it's just £2,500. Like, What other place gets away with that? In our final episode of the season, we go into something we've not really touched on before, and that is the world of after-school clubs. Are they building confidence or just piling on stress? Let's look at the upsides such as skills, teamwork, and fun, as well as the downsides of cost, time, and let's face it, burnout. There are some simple ways to pick 1 or 2 clubs that actually fit your child and your schedule. Should we be taking notes from countries like Finland or Korea? Let's take a look.
At Forest, because this is a private school, they had a ridiculous number of choirs, orchestras, things like that.
Yeah, again, this comes onto the stats I was going to talk about.
Wednesday, I think I ended up doing
Wednesday sports, isn't it?
Wednesday. I either did athletics or it was like they did extra football training after school that I did, and then Thursday was orchestra day, which is like where we met. Friday was my day off, which is good.
Same now.
Saturday we'd actually play some sports. So, for instance, I did, because I was in the football teams, I did football matches on Saturday, and then I do a football match with my club team on Sunday. So I found that a lot.
Yeah, I don't remember my timetable to that level. Thursday was orchestra. I think Tuesday was band. Wednesday was band. We used to go around all the different schools and do performances and give talks about the different instruments. We did a trip to Italy to perform. We did a trip to Germany to perform. So we performed around Europe a little bit.
Yeah.
Performed at the Royal Albert Hall. Got paid £10 for that gig. My first professional music gig. And only, probably.
Wow.
Yeah, every band member got £10 each. We were so I've performed on the Royal Albert Hall stage. Those were usually Wednesday things. Thursday orchestra. Friday, don't remember.
I think Friday
I used to come home and watch Robot Wars.
Sorry, Friday. Yeah,
That was my Friday.
but Friday was the rest day, definitely. Which is a kind of,
Yeah.
it was a nice day. It was a good day, because it was just like, I don't need to worry too much about homework immediately. I don't need to worry about anything after school.
Yeah.
I can rest up for Saturday. So like the sport.
Saturday, I would be, depending on what age I was, I'd be doing some swimming, or a bit earlier on, I would be doing some badminton in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then, or maybe Sunday morning was swimming. Yeah.
So pretty busy.
I think for me, it was very clear that music was, I just had this awakening moment when I heard that kid play the violin in year 2. Something like awoke. But I don't think I've used that enough. I think I got bored, not bored. It wasn't enjoyable towards the second half of my school life, because there was just so much focus on, this is the theory, you've got to get this grade, you've got to pass this exam, you've got to learn this piece. I was like, well, not really why I wanted to do it. I wanted to experiment and have fun. And I got to do that outside of school. When I got to university, I started DJing and doing other things. And then producing music after university just for fun. And I do miss those quite a lot.
Yeah. Also, I think parents have, it can be a parent ego thing. So
Yeah, maybe. I don't think my one was, but
sometimes sometimes a parent wishes that they were better at something, and that they don't want their child to, so they force it on their child. I think that's sometimes the case with Asian parents, because they don't have maybe they didn't have the opportunity to do something, and then they force their child down a route. But I wouldn't really change that much about.
Yeah, I think the good thing is
childhood.
same. I think the good thing is I wasn't forced to do it.
Yeah.
It was, I actually asked.
Yeah.
And said, can I do this?
They
didn't even tell me I was doing it. The violin teacher of the school just walked into the classroom in year 3. Everyone thought I was in trouble. And she was like, come with me. Like, what's going on? So then she took me to the music school, and she's like, you're having your first lesson of, parents didn't even tell me.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So it was something that I asked for, and fortunately enough, I was able to do it.
Yeah. Sometimes a child won't know to ask necessarily, but a parent should always watch their child and quite carefully observe what they're into, what they might be into, and then I think it becomes obvious. Right. And a lot of the time it's really, really obvious if they like football, for instance, because it's just like, okay, it's on television,
Yeah.
they're loving it. Maybe we should play some football.
Yeah,
And-
see, stuff like that is very easy to get into.
Yeah. But then, I don't know,
Writing, drawing, art.
interpretive dance and that something like who knows? Like,
No, the kid will be dancing around the house, you
Yeah.
know.
yeah, true.
Stuff like that's easy to get into. It's more when you have to pay for kits and instruments. And...
But like, for instance, squash. Like, you wouldn't necessarily know.
No, some of it you have to be exposed to.
You have to take your child to various things, see if they love it, and if they love it, then that's their thing. Specifically with South Korean parents, one of the reasons why some of them just don't want to have kids is because of the amount of pressure on them to send them to. They're called Hogwons, so they're after school clubs. And when I was teaching in Korea, that was a real problem because I saw I taught some children that would finish their after school clubs at, I'm not even kidding, right, 12 o'clock. And they'd have to,
As in,
midnight.
well, midnight.
Midnight. And they'd do sometimes like 5 or 6 clubs after school. And they'd also have to get up early at like, say, to be in school at like 7 something, like to be in school at like 7, and then do their homework for the school day, like from the previous school day.
I don't have too much.
Yeah.
Way too much.
So I can see that being a huge amount of pressure on the child, but also on the parent because they've got to pay for all of these extra things.
Well, and they've got to make sure they get it done as well.
And it's societal pressure, because if everyone's doing it, then
Yeah.
you feel like you have to. So taken to extremes, it's a problem.
Well, overscheduling.
Yeah.
Middle class trend is to stack too many activities on top of each other. So I don't think even middle class here doesn't go to that level. But it's a lot still. It's a lot. Okay, so that brings us to the end of season 4. A big thank you to anyone who has watched or listened to the episodes, whether this is your first time seeing us or if you've been with us for a while. I hope you found some value in these key takeaways, and we'll see you back here for the start of season 5.
The Education Lounge Podcast.